Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you guys from Seth the Programmer, this one focusing on the final villain of the Bleach manga, Ywach. And specifically, he's going to be talking about how powerful Ywach actually is. Now, if you've read the manga, you should probably already have a pretty good idea of just how powerful this guy actually was. He was, you could say he's pretty much the definition of broken. So let's just go ahead and watch this video. Now, this was requested and we're going to be watching it. So let's just go ahead and play.
我が名はユーハバッハ。お前のすべてを奪うものだ。ジ・オールマイティは未来を改変する力だ。さあ、絶望してくれるなよ。
Hello everyone, it's your host, Seth the Programmer, and today we're actually going to be talking about, as the intro suggests, the broken abilities of one of the shonen top dogs, the quote-unquote omnipotent and omniscient Quincy King, Ywach. Now, whether it's Ywach or Ywach is debated about, but for now we're just going to call him Ywach throughout the video. Also, if you like content like this, maybe this isn't your first rodeo and you've seen me around, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And before we get into the father of all Quince, we have been sponsored today, so please give them a chance. Sponsors like this go into big projects like Naruto vs. Ichigo and so on, and are very helpful to the channel. Thank you. But anyway, before we get into all of this, I just want to say that we're back with another exciting Bleach Immortal Souls advert.
Yeah, I'm lowering the volume because I don't want to run into any copyright problems.
This time the game is finally launching, so you can all play it now. But when is that, you may ask? Well, yes, it is dropped and available right now. So yes, that is right. We officially licensed Bleach RPG mobile game with the original voice actors dropping on the 26th of March. Crazy, I know. But let's reiterate some things, shall we? Get to play through the good old Bleach story, collect all of our favorite characters, use them as strategic, high IQ, character-based combat, and go through the various game modes like story mode, PvP, battle arena, roguelike, and much more. To top it all off, this game is available on both iOS and Android for free, meaning you guys get an official brand new Bleach mobile game for absolutely nothing. And using the code on the screen now, you can also redeem 2 gacha tokens, 50 soul jades, and 5k gold. 5,000 gold absolutely for free if you sign up now. So what are you waiting for? Download it via the description link, redeem the code which is found in the description, and join me in a truly epic mobile game for Bleach. It'll really help me out, by the way, and help Bleach out since you'd be assisting in showing that the fans still want the series to return and do what they can to support it. So once again, go to the description, use all of the relevant links to hop right in. If you've ever seen any versus discussions or any power scaling debates, you've probably heard or seen the name Ywach dropped quite a few times as some ominous and overpowered force from Bleach that's pretty difficult to understand and fully comprehend all the abilities of. This is especially tilting for those that have never even seen the series and just get jumped by him randomly on some versus conversation on like a forum or something, let alone avid readers of the series. And even as a professional, I have to agree that he is a pretty loaded character, to the point that if you were to try and show all of his abilities at once on the screen, you'd have to make the text so small you can hardly read any of it. But to truly understand what Ywach can do, you must first understand who and what is Ywach. In the beginning, everything was black. Nothing could be heard, felt, seen, smelt, or tasted. There was nothing. It was as if the beginning of life was not life at all, but he was alive, and everyone eventually started reaching out to him and recognized him, bestowing him the name of Ywach. Upon touching the strange child covered in black, you were bestowed his soul, and with said soul came miracles, whether it be healing or something even more supernatural. In the end, everyone bestowed these gifts was eventually met with a cursed end in one way or another, but these deaths brought him out of the black, the nothing. These deaths gave Ywach life. And with every death, all the memories and experiences that were gained after they were bestowed these powers would return to Ywach. They would quite literally make him into who he is. Now, Whether or not Yuha is an actual offspring of the Soul King in a conventional sense, or is a piece of the Soul King that was abandoned, is still even debated by the characters and historians within the very Bleach world. Regardless though, he is still the father of all the Quincy, and it is no exaggeration to say that he may in fact be somewhat of a composite Quincy when all is said and done, due to his ability to reabsorb all of the Quincy's who come and go into his very being. This is all important due to the fact that if this was all true, that Yuha's ability arsenal is astronomically large, possibly larger than an entire cast of war characters constructed to be as hacked and overpowered as possible, with his own personal abilities far surpassing all of them on top of that. Even that is a bit too brief to do him any real justice, but you get the general idea. When Yuha first appears, there's an immense and somewhat organized aura about him, like he's some old war general that has been fighting and strategizing for many years rather than someone making a ragtag revenge team against the Soul Society like most opponents up to this point in the series. He's immediately introduced power-wise as someone who can manhandle post-Yami Kenpachi with absolutely not a single scratch, and this is more impressive than most people realize because Kenpachi is a character who suppresses or amps himself to fit his opponent subconsciously, to have the most fun in a battle as possible, and so that he doesn't spoil all the action like he did with Unohana many years ago when he was a child. Despite this, Yuha is not even remotely damaged or scuffed, meaning Yuha's abilities were so immense that not even someone like Kenpachi expected something of that caliber or couldn't adapt quickly enough. In fact, the battle is so one-sided that Kubo shows us a close-up of Kenpachi's face, and the right side of his face is visibly shown with no eye patch, showing he removed it basically the second the battle started. This is consistent as shortly after Yuha is immediately pinned up against head captain Yamamoto, who, even with one arm, is the strongest captain of the Gotei 13, and wielding the strongest Zanpakuto spirit, Ryujin Jaka, in its release date, Yuha is still able to defend himself somewhat, and Yamamoto is convinced he has to go into Bankai to deal with him like he did 1,000 years ago. Captain Shunsui, Ukitake, or even Aizen couldn't convince Yamamoto he'd need something like this, especially right away, but Yuha's presence alone is convincing enough for him to pull it out. A foremost revered as a flaming deity that almost destroyed everything a long time ago, who Yamamoto swore would never appear again, was revived seemingly without a second thought in Yuha's presence. After utilizing his Bankai Zanko no Tachi, whose 15 million degree aura could destroy the entire Soul Society, Yuha is seemingly defeated, but it's shortly revealed that this Yuha who destroyed Kenpachi and was defeated by Yamamoto is not even the real one, but Roid Lloyd, a stern ritter with the ability to mimic memories and appearances. The real Yuha then appears after his casual chat with Aizen in the Muken, and then steals Yamamoto's Ryujin Jaka shortly before ending Yamamoto's life for good in one attack. Stealing both Ryujin Jaka, stated the strongest Zanpakuto in the Soul Society by even Sosuke Aizen himself, and many reputable characters like Shunsui and Ukitake, and Roid's powers to mimic anybody in the process. Breaking out of Quilge's jail in the Garganta, Ichigo finally arrives in the Soul Society to save the day and immediately confronts Yuha. Ichigo and Bankai then fires a Getsuka Tensho that Yuha blocks with one hand, and Yuha pretty much one-shots him from there. That is until Ichigo is revealed to have a new Quincy evolution from his battle with Quilge, which is Blute Vein. Even with this, Yuha was only toying with Ichigo and still easily manhandled him. The same Ichigo who manhandled a Quilge and Ginjo, and the same Ichigo who the Soul Society sent multiple captains to check in on in case he went rogue, was handled by Yuha, who didn't even try, and Hashvalth, the right-hand man of Yuha, then chops Zangetsu in half before Ichigo can even register what's happening. From here, Yuha goes on to his true objective, to meet the Soul King. But to get there, he has to get through the Zero Division first. The Zero Division, whose reputation states they are so powerful that just the 5 of them are stronger than all of the 13 Court Guard squads put together, although the god of the sword and creator of the Zanpakuto, Namaya, with the sharpest blade in his possession, isn't even sure he can even cut Yuha in one attack. Just analyzing the clone version of him fighting, he came to that conclusion, by the way, and the Zero Division almost all falls the moment Yuha allows the Royal Guard to use their full abilities, as he had actually been suppressing himself in the Royal Guard before,
Off
so
screen,
he didn't
they got
accidentally
off
destroy and
screen.
absorb all his own Quincy. The main role of this Zero Division that stands atop all Soul Reapers and surpasses the Gotei 13 mainly actually resides in Ichibe, the man who can erase and create the very concepts of names, a main source of
That
power inside the Bleachverse.
I gotta say this. The Zero Division for me is one of the most disappointing things in the final arc, because these guys were hyped up so much as being strong enough that they were trusted with guarding the life of the fucking Soul King himself, and they get off screened. Off screen. That's what happened to them. We didn't even see them lose. They got off screened.
By the way, he also created the names for almost everything in the Soul Society and was the very first to obtain an evolved Zanpakuto known as a Shinichi, which he would later name a Bankai. If what Yamamoto said about Bankai is true, and that they age like fine wine when it comes to their powers, then it shouldn't be any exaggeration to say that Ichibe, who has the oldest Zanpakuto, his Ichimonji, stands atop the Soul Reapers and can actually take everything away from anything with a name by rewriting the very concepts of such themselves. Using an external form of blue vein, Yuha tries to fight against Ichibe, creating shields and trying to take control of his body and so forth. None of it really works against the leader of the Zero Division, who generally overpowers almost everything Yuha attempts. Ichibe also attempts to null Yuha and take away his voice and much of his powers, but Yuha simply grants himself these abilities back, showcasing a very basic level of power null resistance, if not the ability to reinstate all taken abilities with no effort. Ichibe also possesses the ability to cut the power of Yuha's limbs in half with just simple touches of his brush, and even cuts all of his abilities once he slashes them down the middle, in which Yuha once again gives his powers back to himself that were nulled. Yuha then proclaims nobody can take anything away from him and that everything in the world belongs to him. This will be a theme later, as he can see everything and everything he sees is powerless before him, but even now he's still showing these types of abilities in his most nerfed state.
I mean, for
in the
me,
battle, Ichibe also touches Yuha, which is a serious thing I'll get into later, and in the fight there's also an ability called Saint Altar that Yuha can use to steal Bankai without any use of a medallion or so forth like the other Quincy's need, showing that even without it he can still pretty much take on any Soul Reaper in the series even while nerfed. Although this fails because Ichibe is pretty much the king of ownership / names and concepts of that sort. It's pretty complicated, and the power of everything black always remains with him, and even if Yuha has his Bankai, blah blah blah. Ichibe then pulls out Ichimonji and uses his Bankai ability to rewrite Yuha's name to Black Ant, thus transforming Yuha's powers to the equivalent of a simple ant crawling on the ground, and the now King of Bugs is crushed by Ichibe. Then his eyes finally open and the Almighty is reawakened. The Quincy then gives himself back all his abilities and then some, as his powers to foresee the future and neg all he sees is returned. Yuha has been essentially fighting with his eyes closed the entire story up until now, and we haven't even begun to see his capabilities even by this point. The Almighty, as described now, is Yuha's ability to see the future, know everything he sees, have all his powers he knows take his side, and with all powers unable to be used to defeat him, they also can't be used to harm him either.
Here's the thing.
He's essentially unstoppable in conventional terms for a shonen just from that alone, if you take it at that value, which is honestly a Kubo trademark just to make...
Here's the thing. For me, this is my biggest gripe with Yuha as a villain. For me, and again, this is just me, whether you agree with me or not, that's completely up to you. For me, one of the reasons why I couldn't get into Yuha as a villain is because Kubo, unfortunately for me, made him way too goddamn strong. He made him strong to the point where it's honestly hard for me to realistically believe that this guy even lost. Like, it's hard to believe that this guy actually lost, because considering all of his hacks abilities, especially like he said, the ability to see the future and alter it, like how can you lose if you have that ability? Especially later with the Still Silver, the arrow that was shot into him to negate his powers, so that Ichigo could kill him. To me, how is it that he didn't see that? I don't know. To me, it's ever since the Almighty was activated, and then later when he absorbed the Soul King, it got to the point where he was just he got kind of boring. Like it's and not just boring, but like I said, it was hard for me to believe that he could ever lose to anyone. It's just it just kind of took me out of it. But again, like I said, that's just me. Maybe you guys feel different.
Make everybody in the series as OP as possible, let alone the main villain of an arc like Aizen or Yuha. But the father still has much, much more up his sleeve. The head of the Zero Division then erects the Futen Taisatsu Ryo, or Magnificent Death Mausoleum, which takes 100 knights from the Soul Society to erase Yuha from existence by covering him in black, to the point that he won't even be able to be reborn. With disinterest, the king declares his name as Yuha, the man who will rob him of everything, and easily obliterates and decapitates Ichibei 3 steps short of the line he drew at the start of the fight, as he predicted. With the Soul Reapers essentially all out of the way, the last thing for Yuha was to take the Soul King. Ichibei states that nobody from Ichigo's group can actually stop Yuha after Ichigo revives him by saying his name, but Ichigo and gang are sent off anyway because might as well at this point. Fuck it, there's no plans or witty tactics really left at this point, and Ichigo is eventually manipulated into cutting down the Soul King, and Wako Mundo, the world of the living, and the Soul Society begin to fall apart. It's actually even stated that everything connected to these worlds will be gone, as well as the Garganta will not be able to be used, which is the massive space that engulfs all of these worlds. Mimi Hagi, the right arm of the Soul King, then jumps out of Ukitake, and all of the worlds just stop falling apart because he has such immense power, or he has the power of stillness and so forth. Yuha ends up absorbing both Mimi Hagi and the Soul King, as well as Lilibaro, Hashvalt, and Gerard Valkyrie, who I will get into later, and the final battles would then begin. Now, I've seen a lot of people downplay Yuha with these fights as well as give him credit, but I want to outline a few things with this final battle with Ichigo. The first thing I want to outline with Yuha's fights with Ichigo is that Yuha is mainly having fun with Ichigo because he has been anticipating fighting him for many years, to the point that even the father says that he won't use his almighty abilities against him many times just so he can find it more exciting. And even in pretty much every scene that Ichigo actually does cut him, you'll notice that all the eyes on his body are closed or missing because he's not actually using his almighty, and that when they are open, Ichigo gets absolutely annihilated. Now, while Ichigo is strong, so much so that Ichibei was planning to potentially make him the Soul King if everything went sour, he's certainly nothing compared to Yuha plus the Soul King plus all the Quincy plus a lot of, Soul Reapers, Mimi Hagi, blah blah blah. It's just no contest. Even after getting cut by the Grand Race Arrow that everyone wanks Ichigo for, Yuha, with his eyes still closed, asks Ichigo if that's it, if that's all he can do. And Yuha himself does give credit to him here by saying his power is magnificent, that he must always be on guard so that he doesn't underestimate him and lose. But the ensuing fight is a complete stomp once this statement is said. In the fight, Ichigo is also actually changing the future with his pure hope alone, which Yuha confirms. However, Yuha confirms that in this multiverse of hope and its timelines, that he can actually see them all, and that changing the future for Ichigo is simply hopping from one of these timelines to another that Yuha can see and ultimately control, which means that Yuha can actually see and control a whole multiverse of possibilities. Now, whether he can actually manipulate every aspect of them at the same time is certainly questionable, but it is confirmed here that he can manipulate at least aspects of them with a lot of precision, which I'll go over soon, but some of them can be like he destroyed every Bankai in the future in this timeline, and etc. Ichigo then goes Bankai after a speech about how he always overcomes despair and multiplies his combat ability by 5 through 10 times, in which Yuha responds by then snapping his Bankai in half in the future and easily begins to bully him without even using his eyes again. Yuha also confirms again that his power is enough to only see the future.
Here's the thing. Again, like I said, I know that Kubo was rushing, but at the same time, this coupled with where is it? This honestly felt like one giant middle finger to the fans. Again, I know Kubo is not that kind of guy, but to me, that's what it felt like. It felt like one big middle finger to us, the Raiders.
His Bankai in half in the future and easily begins to bully him without even using his eyes again. Yuha also confirms again that his power is not to only see the future or just see the future, but to alter the future. This is especially impressive considering that Ichigo's Bankai was considered highly formidable, yet his hacks could still negate using the Almighty. Also, he ends up absorbing all of Ichigo's powers for himself to make things even worse, possibly doubling his abilities if the statement or claim of Ichigo's
I still have
Bankai
no
being
idea how
formidable
the
is
hell
actually
he managed
taken
to
at
do
Yuha's
that.
level in terms of raw strength, although that's contentious.
I mean,
That's
his
a
Quincy
little bit
abilities I
head-headed.
can
In
understand,
the
but
end, it takes a combination of a newly revived and fully revealed Bankai Ichigo and a massively amped Kyoko Suigetsu from Aizen and a still silver arrow that negs Ashvalen users with more power null than anything Ichibei and Ichimoji can do, and you have a GG for Yuha. An unfortunate end that never really showed his full abilities, with him simply losing to being caught off guard by some super plot arrow. You could still make a few theories for Yuha here, beyond just losing due to the still silver arrow, such as Yuha actually lost on purpose so they could return to destroy all of them when they're at their happiest moments in the future, as he actually promised he would grant Ichigo that if he came at him to fight after their first battle, which Ichigo did follow through on. And some deny that by saying that Yuha's powers, which even the vestiges of scared and made numerous decade-long time-skip captains think of retreating, disappeared in the future after Ichigo's son touched a vestige. However, I'd say this is actually the opposite, as unless Ichigo's son has anti-almighty Yuha hacks, touching Yuha's vestige would do nothing but transfer his soul into you and make you indebted to him. In fact, almost every single Soul Reaper who fought a Quincy or touched Yuha upon their deaths will give all of their souls and memories back to his majesty. It isn't just a Quincy thing as Hoshvalt actually describes to Uryu. That means if Ichibei fully dies, Aizen, not likely, Ichigo, Yamamoto, who did die, everyone who fought a Quincy, and pretty much everyone important to Bleach technically would reside in a composite Yuha, which is another reason he's still formidable in versus debates. He's pretty much just composite Bleach at this point. So a lot of people, they see Yuha, they don't understand what he's really doing, why does he want to like restart all the worlds, or what is he really up to? And Bleach is a story that mainly deals with this theme of death, and while I'm not like a super narratively, driven YouTube channel, I'll just give a basic idea here why Yuha got to where he is. And what I mean by this theme of death and what it means to face death, after all, the main characters of the series and those on the side of good are usually Shinigami, their names literally meaning gods of death, while Hollows are seen as the major enemy in the series. It's hinted out throughout the series that the Quincy are arguably more dangerous to Order due to how their powers work, as they absorb the Reishi around them and destroy souls rather than preparing them for reincarnation or sending them to hell. It could be almost argued that they might even restart a stagnation problem, which is hinted in the novels. Now, Bleach's entire world is held up by this balance of souls, and as Shinigami are the upholders of that balance, it's not the Hollow but the Quincy who threaten that balance. So fittingly, Yuha's goal is to destroy the balance of the world, destroy the Soul King, and rewrite this problem, as he words it, removing both life and death itself. Now, Yuha is powerful because the power he gained was used to fight against his fears that he never had when he couldn't see anything. He absorbed all the powers of the Quincy, ended up becoming a sort of embodiment of all of their lives that were sacrificed for him, all of the people that died for him. So he views himself as carrying the weight in the lives of many, all of their burdens on his shoulders, and thus fears the possibility of death and losing the product of all of those sacrifices. His defeat at the ends of Ichigo, Aizen, and Uryu is more so the product of this theme and being defeated by two of his sons that he saw as those who should sacrifice themselves for him. They were facing him despite the fact that they were outmatched and might die, whereas Yuha had the sacrifices and abilities of so many people that he had die for his own sake, rather than taking anything with his own hands. He had an ability that let him see all possibilities so that he wouldn't have to face a future where he would face consequences, but Ichigo was only doing what he could, not sacrificing his friends, but working alongside them. So despite Yuha obviously being much stronger and having much more power that could stop them, it was an arrow from a Quincy that didn't fear this death that ended up stopping Yuha. Now, for most of you, I'll let you argue and debate about what crazy powers he should or could have from this, or whether or not you think this possible vestige of the Soul King actually truly did lose or simply has some maniacal plan for the future. But from here, I'll go over a few abilities I think are notable that you guys would probably find interesting, that he more than likely does have if you do consider the composite Quincy meta thing. These abilities are mainly spammed in stats equalized debates, as Yuha's insanity is honestly way too high for his own tier of strength a lot of the time, but beyond all of the Bankai and Volsternthik amps of Yuha can arguably give himself on top of his insane power, he also has abilities such as Asnod's Fear, which attacks your optic nerve and gives you intense fear, Gremmy's Imagination abilities, which allow you to take anything he imagines and makes it a reality, including cloning himself, turning into his enemies, BFRing his enemies to outer space, or generally turning into or doing anything he can actually imagine. And with Yuha's already top tier power, this ability would be borderline unstoppable, especially in Bleach. With the Visionary, he could clone himself and give himself full powers to every clone seemingly a limitless amount of times, as well as use abilities from Gremmy's creations like Shaz Domino the Vanishing, who can actually erase his very concept from the face of existence, causing everyone to even forget he ever existed mid-battle. The Miracle's ability to grow larger, stronger, and faster upon all damage taken, even attacks that should turn you into mush or kill you only enhance you beyond your limits and revive you. This caused Gerard to become so massive and strong that him simply falling from the Soul Palace would have destroyed the entire Serite, and he was able to revive and hold off Kenpachi, Adult Itsugaya, and Byakuya all at the same time. You also have Askin Nuklivar's Death Dealing, which can turn your own blood into its own lethal dose and kill you with your own blood, or anything that's around you that can even be a lethal dose can be used to execute you. Hoshvalth's ability to redirect fortune and misfortune, such as damage and so forth, back on his opponents. Even if he himself is put in a state of near death, he can reverse it. Lily Bardo's X-axis that pierces anything between it and its target. Light manipulation, as well as immortality, intangibility, and constant regeneration. The Superstar, in which he can create a clone of himself using Gremmy's power and constantly power himself up with his own cheers, as well as have reliant immortality with his fan clone, as well as amp his punches by over 10 times their normal power with Star Satsugen Punch, the ability to copy someone's likeness, memories, and all their powers abilities with Royd and Lloyd's through yourself, the ability to zombify anybody his blood comes into contact with, or cause anybody he attacks to fall in love and obey his every command as a soul, Bambietta's ability to cause anything touched by his Reishi to turn into an explosive, which is pretty much Deidara from Naruto's abilities on absolute steroids, Will Gay's absolutely subordination to absorb all things with Reishi into himself and absorb it, Pernida's ability to evolve, learn, and adapt to anything it touches, and so forth. And due to having the Almighty, Yuha also has the ability and the cornerstone needed to split apart and make his own worlds and realms. And that's honestly just the surface. I could really go on for an hour about all his abilities. Those are just some of my favorites. In equal stats, he can pretty much just become the opponent's character, but with more hacks and abilities, and then just win, which is why he's probably such a favorite. The last thing I want to go over is his omniscience and omnipotence. Basically, with omniscience and omnipotence, you can almost say it's like a state of being in the Bleach verse. Not necessarily that he's truly omnipotent or omniscient. I had like someone on my tweet that saw the thumbnail like, "L, you think he's omnipotent?" And I'm like, that's the point, right? I'm gonna be debunking it, right? So omnipotence can just mean very great power. Omniscience can just mean very great knowledge, right? Pretty simple stuff. It doesn't mean like true omnipotent, like, you know, you're some type of religious deity or something. It can literally just mean very great, right? And that's also another thing with infinite, especially in Japanese, you know, stories. They use infinite, omnipotent, all that stuff a lot. And it just means very great. Sometimes it can even mean strongest in the verse or strongest in existence sometimes. So you do need to take that kind of interpretation into account when you're considering these. Obviously, Yuha's not omniscient or omnipotent, or else he wouldn't have lost. Or maybe he is and he didn't lose and he's actually gonna kill everyone in the future. Like, okay, never mind. Not enough of that. But anyways, guys, I hope you did enjoy the video. It's been a long time writing this. It's really annoying writing a Yuha video, let me tell you that. But if you did like it, please like the video, give a subscription. Please check out our sponsor. And other than that, guys, till next time.
Okay, that's it. Okay, so that's the video. And yeah, like he said, Yuha, incredibly powerful. But for me, like I already said, it was just, to me, I feel like Kubo kind of made him too strong, that it's hard for me to believe that he actually lost, especially with his ability, the Almighty, where he can just, change the future to suit him. And yeah, it was just the ending of Bleach did have a lot of problems, but again, that does make sense because Kubo himself said that he had to, rush some things and that he couldn't write the story the way he wanted to because of his health. And don't listen to what some people might say that it got canceled or whatever because people weren't interested. No, that's not the case. Okay, Kubo himself said it. His health was bad. He had to rush it. That's why. That's why a lot of people are excited for the anime because they're thinking maybe Kubo there can tell the story that he always wanted to tell. Maybe it'll have some of the same series of events, but at least it'll make more sense. But anyway, that's the video, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Remember to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe if you haven't, not just to my channel, but also to Seth's channel if you like his content. And also remember to click on the bell icon to let you know whenever a new video goes up or whenever I go live. Thank you so much for your support. I highly appreciate it, to all the people who did subscribe and are watching my videos. And I hope you continue to do so in the future, while also remembering to stay safe and take care of yourselves. Bye for now.